Welcome to The Topic, where we highlight Houston Community College, our students, our programs, and our reach into the community. I'm Todd Duplantis. If you're watching us on HCC TV, YouTube, or any social media, you can download all of the audio versions of our podcasts at hccs.edu/podcasts. We've got a show today focusing on help that we provide for our students through the financial aid department. You know, going through college is challenging enough. Imagine if you have to deal with financial crises all the time. Well, we have a solution for that, or a solution that students can qualify for. We're joined by Bianca Matlock, HCC Director of Financial Aid Operations. Thanks for being here on The Topic.
Thank you for having me.
So we've got a special program for students that provides emergency help to them. Tell us real briefly, what is that's all about?
Yes, so depending on the situation, students can apply for one of two emergency programs. The first one being the Hurricane Harvey Recovery Grant. Okay. The second one being Swoop to the Rescue. So we field students based on whatever the financial situation that has occurred.
You know, people are still recovering from Harvey, and it's we're 2.5 years out, and it may be surprising to some, but there are a lot of folks that are just getting back in their homes. Several years ago, I covered Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. So I was there when the hurricane came through. I covered it for news, and then I left the news industry and I went back to New Orleans when I was working in the private sector with a company to do business in New Orleans. And one of the things the representatives throughout the New Orleans area wanted to do was take me around to show me neighborhoods where people were still recovering from Hurricane Katrina. In the yards of the neighborhoods were the FEMA trailers, or you probably heard about that with the national news, and we're talking 3 years out after the storm.
Wow.
And FEMA trailers were still in the yard, and what had happened was a lot of the people living there were still, they'd run out of money through the grants and loans, and they were fixing the homes on their own. So they'd go to work, they'd come home, they'd live in the trailer, and they'd rebuild their home. It took them years to rebuild things. So having us 2.5 years out from Hurricane Harvey, I guess in essence, it shouldn't be surprising to the public to realize we still have a lot of students that are being affected by this.
Yes, we have students that are attending classes and going home into unfinished homes.
Yeah.
We have students that are, currently living with their parents or family in order to just to get by. So we're using this funding to try to leverage students into self-sufficiency by hopefully giving them the tools that they need in order to take finances out of the picture and be able to focus on what really matters, is just getting their education and lifting themselves up.
Now, you have two types of emergency aid. One of them is general emergency aid, and one of them for victims from Harvey. But from what I understand, you guys started this emergency aid after Harvey, the first I guess, round of emergency aid. How did that work?
Yes, so when the hurricane hit, our executive director, decided to do early releasing for funds. From there, I think the vice chancellors really saw a need for this program and started to fund it themselves each year. So since 2017, we've assisted over 821 students.
That's amazing. And that's since really August of 2017 when Harvey hit. So since that time, 821. And I guess there wasn't really a whole lot of advertisement with it. There was mainly word of mouth going out there.
Right. We receive referrals from counseling, from advising. Students can be in someone's office. They may disclose that they're going through something. And because of our faculty and staff here at HCC, we've been able to connect students to the resources.
And these are funds that are given to the students at like a grant or a scholarship, correct?
Correct. So the student is not required to repay it. They just have to meet minimum eligibility requirements to have access to funding.
Let's talk about the eligibility. How does that work? Do they fill out an application?
Yes, so they'll go to the website, hccs.edu/emergencyhelp. The application for the Swoop to the Rescue program is located there. Once they complete it, a financial coach will receive it in their inbox. We actually all receive it, and then we'll follow up with them. Within 3 to 7 days, the student usually receives funding, as long as we're in periods of enrollment. 6-hour minimum requirement, 2.0 GPA, and they must be meeting satisfactory academic progress.
The SAP, as it's called.
Yes.
Okay, and that's for the first emergency aid, right?
Yes.
Okay, when we get to the Harvey emergency aid, does it work the same?
No, it's actually a little bit less restrictive.
Okay.
So students only need to enroll in a minimum of 6 hours, and they can be new or returning students.
Okay.
So we are in the community currently recruiting for Second Start, and we'll have a nice group of students that'll be starting that were affected by Harvey and are just now getting a chance to come back to the school.
If a student is wondering, well, I've already got my financial aid package. Now I'm having some issues with my car, and I would like to see does that go against their financial aid package?
It doesn't go against their financial aid, but it is included in cost of attendance.
Okay.
So every student has a budget limit that they can receive. But we can do we do some things to try to work with students as well. So each situation is different. So I would recommend to all students, if you're interested in this program and you have a documented emergency, definitely reach out and let's see how we can help.
If someone has questions, well, I'm wondering whether or not I'll qualify. I see the application, but I still have questions. Can they call you, or is it best to fill out that application first and wait for you to reach out to them?
Either or is fine.
Okay.
Students have reached out to us through the call center.
Yep.
Their financial coach that's at their campus is also available to answer questions, or they can email us directly, hccs.specialgrants@hccs.edu is the email address.
Okay, so they can email you, they can go through the chat session on the website, or they can simply fill out the application and go
Yes.
that route. How many, you said there's 821 students that have received grants. Do most students that apply for this get the grants?
I'd say 3/4 of the students.
3/4 of it. That's pretty good odds though, right?
Yeah. So we work with the students. A lot of times they're just submitting statements.
Yep.
So we'll call the student and let them know, hey, we think that we could work with you. Do you have any additional documentation that you can help provide to us so we
Right.
can at least substantiate why we gave the funding?
And I'd heard a story where you helped a student fix their tire or something with the funding. Is that correct?
Yes. We had a student who had a flat tire, was not able to get to
That's
campus, and honestly was not going to class because of a tire. And so once she found out about the program, we were able to get her funding. She was able to get her tire, and she was back in class the next day.
It sounds like a little bit of money, but realistically, I remember the days when I was in college and $40 just wasn't happening at the time. That was the difference between keeping the lights on or fixing my tire. I'd probably keep the lights on. So I can certainly sympathize with that. We're talking with Bianca Matlock. You're the HCC Director of Financial Aid here at Houston Community College. We're talking about emergency help available for our students. You're watching The Topic. We'll be back after this with more. Welcome back to The Topic. I'm Todd Duplantis. Does this scenario sound familiar to you? You're going to college right now. You're already living paycheck to paycheck. You're working full time, and money's tight. You go out to your car in the morning to go to work or go to class. You've got a flat tire. There's a nail in it. You don't have money to fix it. What do? Well, HCC has a way of helping our students get past those financial barriers, and Bianca Matlock with our financial aid department is joining us now to tell us about the emergency aid available for students. In that type of scenario, are you able to help students?
Yes, most definitely. Students reach out to us all the time with issues, and we do our best to connect students to resources, whether it be through the Soup to the Rescue program or any community resources that students can tap into.
And we're talking resources for those who just have an emergency need, and it's a barrier getting to class, or those who are still recovering from Harvey. And those are two different pools of funding, correct?
Yes.
One of them's provided by the government?
Yes, the Department of Education awarded HCC a Harvey Recovery Grant. We were one of very few schools in the nation that received it. And we have money to assist students, anything from tuition and fees
Right.
to assistance with transportation costs, housing, dependent care expenses. Just kind of depends on the situation of the student.
And we're talking situations earlier. I mentioned a scenario, but I guess many of our students may find themselves in that. And you guys helped a student that had a tire issue.
Yes.
Can you think of other unusual barriers that you were able to get funding for to help a student?
Yes, actually before Christmas break, we had a student who was getting off of the train right here at Central Campus. And as she tried to cross the street, she was hit by a car.
Oh, wow.
And it broke her leg. She's not from here. She's from Nigeria originally. And so her instructor reached out to us asking if we could assist the student. And it was huge barriers. First of all, we had to get the money to the student
Right.
who wasn't conscious at the time. And so one of our financial coaches went above and beyond and actually drove to the hospital, got the signatures that we needed, verified her address, so we were able to produce a check for that student on the very last day of the fall semester.
And was that student, is the student back in school now, or they've been able to re-enroll? Or
She is
getting to that point?
re-enrolled. She is currently in recovery, so
Yeah.
she's in a recovery home. Since she's not from here, she
Right.
needed that type of support, but she was extremely grateful.
Well,
And-
I mean, you're in another country. She's a foreign student, correct? So she's in another country, and something like this happens to you. That's terrifying.
Yeah, it was terrifying, but it was so nice to see how the HCC community came along
Yeah.
and really supported that student and wrapped their arms around her to ensure that she, you know, is still retained as a student,
Right.
but also that outside of her personal circumstances, that everything was okay.
That's amazing. And she apparently didn't reach out for help. It was an instructor that,
Yeah.
and watching over her, just looking for her in her best interest. That's amazing.
Yes, he was a phenomenal instructor. I mean, that whole department at West Loop really
Yeah.
wrapped their arms around that student to make sure that she was connected to resources.
Wow. Can you think of any other stories where unusual needs that have been met for students?
Yes, we actually had a student that made the news. Her boyfriend attacked her in her home, stabbed her,
Wow.
and then set the house on fire.
Oh, wow.
And come to find out, she was a HCC student. She showed up at the Northline campus, scars and everything. And we were able to assist her with getting proper housing so
Yeah.
that way, you know, she could start her life over and move on from that situation.
Those are incredible stories. And, you know, this funding is to really help the students. But do you get the weird requests like, hey, you know, I'm maxed out on my credit cards this month. I got to get some payments, but I don't have enough money. Do you ever get requests like that? I mean, imagine you get some strange ones, too.
We
huh?
get some strange requests. We've gotten requests for anything from candies to
Candies. I'm low on Hershey's this month. You know?
Yeah,
The
I mean-
Hershey's Kisses have run out in the bowl, and we need to keep it full.
a lot of boyfriend, girlfriend,
Oh, wow.
tag teams.
Yeah.
So we do filter through that, which is why I said 3/4 of the students.
If you get a quarter, I'd like to see that quarter that don't get it and just read through those. We might get some good material for the morning show.
You
here.
probably
Yeah.
would.
Yeah. But are they? But they're serious in a lot of ways. They're taking this because they really think that this is a barrier in some way or shape or form. Correct.
Right. And sometimes that leads to conversations about financial coaching and
Yeah.
talking about other topics. So, you know, we still use it as an opportunity to connect with the students, no matter
Right.
how crazy the request is.
Swoop to the Rescue is the name of the other program that you have. Right. There's the Harvey funding and then Swoop to the Rescue.
Yes.
Tell me how Swoop to the Rescue was created, because that was related to Harvey as well.
Yes, so fall 2017, when Harvey hit, the administration saw that there were a lot of students affected, so it started as us releasing funds early to students, disbursements early. Then, at that point, the higher administration determined that they wanted to fund this program.
Right.
And so it started out with a very small amount of money, which was really spearheaded by the financial coaches. And since 2017, we've assisted, like I said before, over 800 students, about $697,000 that has gone
Wow.
out to support students. And currently, we're assisting 262 students that are currently enrolled and
Right.
retained. So,
So 262 outside of the 800 number.
Yes.
That are in the system right now.
Yes.
So really, we could be looking at, really, since this program started, since Harvey, you've got almost 1,000 students you've either assisted or in the process of assisting.
Yes, just with swoop money alone.
Wow.
Now, the impact is even greater because when the Harvey hurricane hit, we were releasing funds early for students who were eligible for Title IV funding.
Now, when you're talking funding, for those of you, you remember Harvey hit in the towards the latter part of August, and that was right when we were just getting started.
Right.
And students, in many cases, are waiting for their financial aid. So when you're
Right.
releasing funds, you have to jump through a lot of hoops
Yes.
to get those financial aid funds released to get to these students to take that financial barrier out of their way.
Yes, our executive director was very pivotal in spearheading that, and it was great because students got access to their aid earlier
Yeah.
than they normally would,
Right.
to hopefully keep them enrolled. And I do think that it was an effective strategy.
Well, it was, and because we had students who not only had they lost some work, but they couldn't go back to work, and oh yeah, their car was flooded out or their home was destroyed, and they need to go to school. So you've
Yes.
got all these factors. The fact that we were able to keep the semester going is a testament in of itself. And I know a
Yes.
lot of folks are working around the clock, many hours during that break we had while we were trying to recover from Harvey.
Yes, I agree.
We're talking to Bianca Matlock, as she is the Director of Financial Aid Operations here at Houston Community College, and we're talking about emergency funding for our students. When something happens, somebody's there to try to help them out. We'll have more on the topic, financial coaches. How do they work? That's coming up. Stay tuned.
This is Daniel. On his way to becoming a rock star, he got burned, literally. So he changed his tune and his career, and he's starting at Houston Community College. HCC, for everyone, anytime.
I've seen people's lives change just by attending a class at HCC.
Some of them might not have the financial means to go to a four-year university. That doesn't make them any less quote-unquote smart than the kids who go to a four-year school.
HCC is easy to get to. It's easy to apply and easy to become a part of.
It gave me so much confidence.
Once you finish your 2 years there, you can transition into a four-year university or go into the workforce.
It's affordable, it's accessible, it changes lives.
Meet Elizabeth. She's a mom on her way to get groceries. She's also on her way to getting an associate's degree at Houston Community College that could help provide for her family. HCC, for everyone, anytime.
Welcome back to the topic. I'm Todd Duplantis. We've been talking about financial aid assistance available for our students, especially emergency financial aid assistance. We're joined once again by Bianca Matlock, the Director of Financial Aid, and Dominique Candley joins us now, and you're a financial coach at the Northwest College. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Tell me I'm familiar with financial coaches because when I first got here at HCC, I think the concept was just starting up, and you guys have really blossomed everywhere, and you're stationed across the district. Tell me what your role is.
So as a financial coach, what our goal is to make sure that our students don't have any barriers that stop them from completion, which is graduation. So we want to make sure that they understand what their options are as far as any emergencies go. If we can't assist them directly, we will direct them to our community partners that we do have a list of. Also, if they need help with obtaining a goal, so like say for instance, they want to purchase a vehicle or purchasing a home, we give information on identity theft. We also provide them with financial education so that they can make sound financial decisions.
The last part, very interesting to me because I have a son of mine. One of my sons has a bit of debt from college and doesn't have a degree, so he fell into that trap. Do you work with students to talk to them about really what it means? You may want to take out all these loans, but this is the way it's going to look like 5 years down the road when you're repaying them.
We do. We are able to assist our students with understanding student loan debt, making sure that they're borrowing responsibly. Our goal is to get a budget going so our students can stick with that, and then we will follow up with them and hold them accountable as well.
And I was surprised when I think it was during the topic a couple of years ago when someone from financial aid was in here and they were telling me that loans really are the last option. Mm-hmm. What you try to work with are grants that are available to the student and scholarships first to see if that will pay for most of their college, if not all of it, correct?
That is correct, yes.
And so when they get past that, is it a small amount that they have to take out as a loan that's left over in most cases?
Well, depending on the course load that they decide to take, that is correct. I have seen where our students are able to attend school with just their federal Pell Grant based
Right.
on their enrollment. We always advise them that a loan should be their last resort
Yeah.
and not something that they should be living off of, because a lot of our students, we are finding, are using that to make ends meet. So that's
Right.
why the coaches are in place to kind of help them see the bigger picture than what's directly in front of them.
This is a loan, not a payday, I guess, is what
Exactly.
you're looking at. And that was my next question. Do you find a lot of students nowadays? I know my son did, and lived the high life when he had his loans coming through. But do you find a lot of students are doing that now? I mean, it sounds like they're using it to make more than just make their ends meet, right?
We do. I mean, I have students that have come across my desk that don't have a degree and not even an associate's degree,
Yeah.
and that's very concerning. We want to make sure that they understand the importance of this, because if you have maxed out of your Stafford loans, which is the federal government loans that are provided, then that's not good, and you don't have a degree to show for it.
Right.
So we kind of try to get them to understand what their options are, how to make sure that they don't go into default, which is where they default on those loans, and then also give them information on how to move forward with being responsible.
I had a politician come up to me years ago. He was actually in office at the time, and he said, I know HCC takes a role in trying to educate students about these for-profit colleges, but especially the loans that you're getting into and these payday loans. Is there something you guys can do more about that? Do you guys take a role in letting students know that, hey, those aren't the best options for you?
We do. We do have several coaches that are part of our team that are really familiar with the payday loan systems, how to
Yeah.
help students get out of that scam, because it is a scam. It kind
It
of
is,
looks good
sure.
up front, but then eventually it's really bad. The interest fees are really high, and if we have a student that comes to us and they seem like they're going to that route, we try to see what is it that we can do to help them first, so that they don't have to go to a payday loan.
Right.
So it helps when we probe and ask questions and get them comfortable with speaking with us and understanding that it is all confidential when you do speak to a coach.
So the payday loan, they may think that's my only option, but now we have more options available for them through this emergency aid, and I imagine that could be something you help them out with as well.
That is correct. We do have 2 emergency assistance programs, one being Hurricane Harvey and the other one being Swoop to the Rescue. Both of them, as a coach, I work with both programs. What we do is we receive the applications in, we review them, assess the situation, ask the student what is going on as far as why do they need the assistance, what's their plan moving forward. Let's get them on the right track, because a lot of times they're just all over the place where they don't know what's next. So our goal is to try to make sure that we get them a budget. That's very, very important. If I talk to a student and it's a rental thing, okay, so we can help you this month, but what's going to happen next month?
Yeah.
So just trying to get them to think ahead versus right now.
Right. And now you're at the Northwest College. Do we have financial coaches across the district similar doing to what Dominique does?
Yes, we have coaches at each region, and then we also pitch in as a team to support our online students.
Right. And there's no cost for the financial coaches. If you're enrolled in HCC, whether you're taking 6 hours or 18 hours, you have access to a financial coach. Is that how it works?
Yes, they have access to a financial coach as long as you're an enrolled student, and we do help students who are maybe prospective students if they
Yeah.
ask a question. So we don't just cut students off just because they may not attend the college right now. They could turn into a student. But we look forward to assisting students anywhere from, as she mentioned, budgeting to even planning for retirement.
Right.
We have retirement experts that are also serving as financial coaches.
So Dominique, I'm going to go back to the questions I was asking Bianca earlier. What's your most unique question, or what's your most common question you get for students that come see you?
Well, they want to buy a car. And unfortunately, the Department of Education has a regulation in place that does not allow students to purchase a vehicle, but we can assist them with transportation. So they don't understand the concept between the two. So they'll ask, well, I want to buy a car, I want to put money down on a car, and I have to explain to them, that it's not, we can't provide you with funds for that. However, I can help you with a bus card or Uber or
Right.
Lyft, depending on where they are located throughout Houston. We can help them.
What if I'm applying for financial aid and I also want to get a car, but I'm not going to use my financial aid for it? Let's say, can I do that? I mean, let's say I go buy a car at the end of the year, get a good deal on a car, but I still need my financial aid in the spring. Is that possibility?
So that's possible. I mean, we even offer assistance for students who are looking for second chance a car purchase. So we have
Right.
a company that we work with or a partner that we can send them to. So it doesn't have a negative effect on you purchasing a vehicle versus using your financial aid. It's just that if you tell a financial coach or a financial aid administrator that you are going to use your financial aid refund to purchase a vehicle,
That's a big no-no.
thing. Yes.
You can get financial aid, just don't use it to buy a car.
And
you
don't
know?
tell anybody.
Don't tell me you're doing that.
And I
Yeah.
think the concept behind it is the fact that you're taking out a student loan
Yeah.
to go and give it to something that depreciates in
Yeah,
value.
right.
So-
Yeah, and pay a much higher interest rate than
Exactly.
that as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, Peter Pan Paul and all that stuff going on. Yeah. What would be so that's the most common question. They're looking for transportation, which is understandable. What would be some of the weirder questions that you've had coming in asking you for advice on?
I don't know if it's weird, but I had a gentleman who lost his son and he needed some help with getting to the funeral.
Right.
And it was like in the next day to get to California. So that was a harder one. It was sad, but sometimes you have to try to understand, to put yourself in the
Yeah.
student's shoes as
Yeah.
well. Emergencies happen.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
unfortunately, it was like he needed it the next day. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
would it have been something that we could have helped maybe if it would have been, I need it next week?
yes.
Definitely.
We would be able to provide.
Yes.
Yes,
That's
we've
incredible.
assisted a student getting back to Nigeria to bury her father
Wow.
a couple of years ago. So it is something we
That's
can
an incredible
we can
story.
work with. Yeah.
It really is. I mean, that I wouldn't have thought would fall under the realms of what we can help with. But that's an emergency, and it's a barrier, and we were able to assist. And we don't ask for that money back either. Huh?
No, we don't. We
That's
just
something.
try to empower the students to say, hey, the best way for us to see that this program is working is just to finish. Just finish.
Do you find students that are coming to ask for your assistance in some way, and you tell them about this emergency loan, and they're surprised to hear about that?
All the time. Actually, we held a work-study fair yesterday,
Yeah.
and the coaches do an orientation before they go to the interviews. And we give them information on coaches and what we do, where you can find us. And I ask the question all the time, how many of you did not know this? And they all raise their hands.
That's
so we're going to do better with getting our names out there so that students know the services are available. We all have access to a bulletin board at campuses, and we all have access to social media and so forth. So we will be putting more information out.
And we're going to help you get that word out there. So come see us here at HCC TV. We'll do all the stuff to get the word out. Dominique Candley, financial coach at Northwest College. Thank you
Yes,
for joining us.
thank you.
And Bianca Matlock, you're becoming a regular here on the topic in the morning show. You're always welcome. Thank you for joining us and telling us about emergency aid that's available for our students. Really, I mean, there are emergencies, and HCC is doing things to take away those financial barriers. You can go to hccs.edu/emergencyhelp for more information on that. And if you'd like to download our audio podcasts here on the topic and all the shows we have on HCC TV, you can do that at hccs.edu/podcasts. Thanks for joining me today on the topic. For HCC TV, I'm Todd Duplantis. I'll see you next time.